True, can you see that okay from back there where you are? Okay. That's what I'm checking. Not people acting a fool. Moving on. Lean up, Kingston. Arms out. You all right? Y'all know it was going to be chilly up in here. I done said something already. Ain't nothing I can do about it. Bring your sweater and be prepared. Looking at this, we're recalling from yesterday. It says when solving equations, we are isolating the variable. We have been doing that for the past 2 days. To isolate the variable, we do the order of operations backwards, meaning we start with subtraction and addition first, then division and multiplication, then exponents, and then any big groups. Grouping symbols, meaning parentheses, brackets, fractions, square roots, absolute value bars, those kind of things, those can be used as grouping symbols in any scenario. So here, make sure you're sitting up, baby. So that way I don't think that you're asleep. Make sure you're sitting up. Lean up for me. You okay? You weren't even here yesterday, so you really need to tune in. Looking at this, it says reminder. What we do to one side, we must do what? To the other side. That will always be true. That will always be the case. So what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. Make sure if I'm highlighting something, you underline it if you don't have a highlighter. So to solve the following equations, I have 3p minus 6 equals 9. This is a two-step equation from yesterday. What's the first thing I need to do? Do I need to move the constant or the coefficient? No, the constant. So what's my constant in this case? Negative 6. So how do I get rid of a negative 6? You make it positive and you move it to both. There we go. So what's being brought down? 3p. What happens to those 6's? What's being brought down behind that? And then what am I typing in? Type in 9 plus 6. Make sure your calculator's up and on top of your desk. Never put it on the floor or we'll have a problem. Any tools that someone's giving you in a classroom, do not put them on the floor. That is the biggest sign of disrespect. Let me just put your computer or your phone on the floor where somebody can step on it and break it. Would you appreciate that? Then why are you doing that with a calculator that probably costs more than what you have? Be for real. What do I need to do after this? What's 9 plus 6? Thank you. What do I do from here? You got to get the p by itself. So what's happening to p? It's being multiplied by what? So what's the inverse of multiplication? I'm mistaken. Division by what? 3. On? Perfect. What happens to these 3's? What's being brought down? Equals. And then what's being typed in? 15 divided by 3. What did y'all get? Any questions there? Looking at B, I have x over 3 plus 4 equals 7. What do I need to do first? Get rid of the constant, which is what? What is 4, positive or negative? So how do I move a positive 4? Make a negative on both sides. So what's being brought down? X over 3, perfect. What happens to those 4's? What's behind that? And then what's being typed in? Type it in, give people time. I'll tell you when. Remember, make sure you're typing in along with us. That was the biggest difference maker in some of y'all passing or failing the daily grade yesterday. When you physically do the work, you will remember it and understand it better. Make sure you're typing it in. Make sure you're typing it in. What'd y'all get? What do I do from here? What's happening to x? It's being what? Divided by 3. So how do I get rid of division by 3? Times by 3 on? What happens to these 3's over here? So what's being brought down? And then what's being typed in? Type in 3 times 3, please. Give people time. Aaliyah, make sure you're typing it in with us, baby. I know how it is, but type in with us, even when you think you know. That way you are proving it. What'd y'all get? My head might be looking down when y'all are looking up, but I'm always paying attention to who and who is not doing something. I wouldn't call it out if I don't see it. The grades show me differently. And in this unit, some of you cannot fail. And by some of you, the majority of you can. Oh, you fail Unit 2 and Unit 1? Baby, you were on the struggle bus to not pass this class. Because having a 50 is bad enough. But having below that, there's no way you're going to make 100 or above on the next 9 weeks to pass the class. That's not to insult you. That is obvious. Because I've seen it. What can my child do at the end? Absolutely nothing. Because why weren't they working at the beginning? Your failure to prepare does not yield an emergency on my side or any teacher's side. So please do not be delusional enough to think that. Do your business and do your work. Example number 1. It says, what is being done to X below according to the order of operations? So what's happening to X to begin with at the top here? Addition by what? 2. And then, what's happening then? Division by what? 5. So, when we're first looking at this, we are first adding by 2, and then we're dividing by 5. We already knew what the order of operations was, but if you need the acronym, I will write it at the top. To get X by itself, we are going to work backwards from the order of operations. So, instead of what we would do first in our mind, subtracting by 2, we need to get rid of the 5. So we need to multiply by 5 first. That then cancels it out. That goes away when you do that. It says, wait, why can't we do the addition first? Because it is a group. Fractions are a type of group. Groups are last in this. So which means we have to get rid of it in order to get this to be a true expression on its own. Any questions there? Big fraction, you have to multiply first. Any questions there? From there, we're left with X plus 2 equals 15 because we got 3 times 5. From there, how do I get X by itself? Minus 2, because that's our constant. We take the opposite. If it's positive, we make it negative. If it's negative, we make it positive. So, bringing down our X, the 2's then cancel out. Equal sign comes down. We have 15 minus 2, that's 13. Any questions there? Notice how it says this. Always plug in your answer to check your solution. You should never come to me and Miss Davis asking us, is this the answer? Because what are we going to ask you first? Did you check it? And if you say no, what are we going to do? Send you on your way. Because do you have every tool to check your answer? Yes. Should there be any doubt? No. Use your tools. To check it, we plug in the 13 for X. That gets me 13 plus 2, which is 15, divided by 5 is 3. The solution works. That means 13 is the correct answer. Any questions there? Moving on. Let's look at some together. We have X minus 3 over negative 4 equals negative 6. So, what's happening to X first? And then? But what do I need to get rid of first? That negative 4. I can't do anything until that denominator is gone. So, if I'm dividing by negative 4, what's the opposite of division by negative 4? Multiplying by what? What kind of 4? If it's negative to begin with, you have to keep it negative in your operations. Does that make sense? What happens with these negative 4s? So what's being brought down? X minus 3. Behind that? Equals what's being typed in? Type that in for me, please, and thank you. I'll tell you when. What'd y'all get? Should have been a positive 24. Now what's happening to x? By what?
3.
So how do I get rid of subtraction by 3? Adding by 3, plusing 3 on both sides. So what's being brought down?
X.
What's being crossed out?
3.
Behind that? Equals, what's being typed in? 24 plus 3. Type it in, I'll tell you when. What'd y'all get? To check this, how would I rewrite it?
27 where X is.
Absolutely, so how would I rewrite it?
27 minus 3 over -4 equals -6.
Perfect. So what needs to be done first in this case?
The removal of -4.
Not quite. Because now it's simplifying. Subtraction. Thank you. So what's 27 minus 3?
24.
Mm-hmm. What's left underneath it?
-4.
Perfect. And the equals -6 should not change. What's happening now? Division of 24 and -4. So what does that get you? And again, do not assume, because some of y'all's check your work yesterday for that second problem was bogus, because I know you didn't type it in, because when I typed it in doing the check, it did not make sense for the answer you got. Does that make sense? Don't just write down -6 equals -6 when the work does not match, because you think someone with a math eye isn't going to tell. Be for real. Type in 24 divided by -4, please. Type it in. Assume nothing. Jordan, raise up. That's the second time, baby. There ain't no third time. If you're tired, what do you need to go grab? If you're tired, what do you need to go grab? Go on and grab one. And stand it up right back there next to that back desk. Thank you. What did y'all get? -6. Does -6 equal -6?
Yes.
Then that's the correct answer. That's how you check it. Don't just throw numbers around. Plug in and simplify as you were shown, taught, and continue to be shown and taught. Looking at B, I have -10 equals 5 plus x. Right here, baby. Move it over here. 5 plus x over 2. What's the first thing I need to do?
Get rid of the denominator.
Get rid of the denominator. So what number is in the denominator?
2
We're dividing by 2, so what's the inverse of dividing by 2?
times -2.
Not -2, just times 2, because the 2 is positive. On.
Both sides.
So what's being typed into the calculator?
2 times -10.
Type that in, please, and thank you. I'll tell you when. What'd y'all get? What should be behind that? Because what happens to those 2's? What do I need to do next? What's happening here?
Addition.
Addition. Read that for me, Zatarian. What does that say? So, is there any multiplication happening there? So, we don't need to say anything multiplication or division. So, what do I need to move from this side to get x by itself? So, if you're adding by 5, what's the inverse of adding by 5? On?
Both sides.
Thank you. If it was multiplication, you would see a multiplication indication, okay? If you see a plus sign, that is addition. What's being typed into the calculator? Typing it in, please. I'll tell you when. What'd y'all get? Behind that? Because what happens to these 5's? What's another way to write this answer? Perfect. Are both acceptable answers? Absolutely. How do I write this to check it?
Plug in -25 where x is.
Absolutely. So how would I rewrite it?
5 plus
-10, because that's what came first from left to right. Then, no, equals 5 plus, do signs matter in this case? Yes or no? Yes. Over what? Perfect. What needs to be typed in first? Thank you, that top part, 5 plus a negative 25 in that parentheses. So 5 plus parentheses, negative 25, close parentheses. I'll tell you when. I keep telling y'all I'm paying attention when I look up when I say these things, but I'm not going to keep calling you out to say who is and who is not doing it. Your grades will reflect that. That's just there. There's no hiding in high school. You pass or fail here. What'd y'all get? Negative 20. Over?
2.
Then what am I typing in? Negative what? No. What did y'all say?
Negative 20 divided by 2.
Should this negative 10 be touched at all? No, because you're trying to see if this side equals this side, correct? So you're typing in negative 20 divided by 2. That's what you missed yesterday, Satarian. What did y'all get?
Negative 10.
Does negative 10 equal negative 10?
Yes.
So is negative 25 the correct answer?
Yes.
Any questions there? When you're checking, you're not solving anything. You're simplifying. It's the opposite. So, step 1, multiply the denominator. Step 2, add or subtract the constant. The practice says solve the following equations using the order of operations backwards. Then check your solutions. 1 and 2 are your responsibility to do. Get them up to me when they're finished, please. And make sure your check makes sense. Preferably in pencil, if you don't mind. Because if you get it wrong, you need to be able to erase it and fix your mistake. Pens should not be used in this math class, ever, unless you're the teacher. Thank you. It's not negotiable. Y'all should be using pencils. Then you better get one from over there. What you doing with the pencil you don't need? There you go. Working on that, you ain't got much time. Let's go. So, looking at number 1, I have x plus 6 over 2 equals 12. What do I do here? What's my first step? Times 2 on both sides. That gets rid of the 2 in the denominator. That's what step 1 says right there. Multiply by the denominator. So what happens to these 2's? So what's being brought down?
X plus 6 equals
12 times 2, which is what? 24. Then step 2 tells me to add or subtract the constant. So what do I need to do next? Because it's already being added, so I have to do the inverse, which is subtraction. I agree. What's being brought down? What happens to those 6's? What's behind that? What am I typing in? Which is what? Thank you. The checks looked way better this go round. Way better. You notice how easy it was for you to know if that was the answer or not? It was nice and clean. That way I can go through. If you did do something wrong, I can mark what was wrong in your answer. Does that make sense? Look at check. How do I check this one? So what needs to be done first? What's 18 plus 6? Everything else stays the same, correct? Then what do I do? Which is? Does 12 equal 12?
Yes.
That means 18 is the right answer, correct? Any questions there? Let's look at number 2. I have negative 3 equals x minus 5 over 2. So, what do I need to do first? Multiply 2 on both sides. I heard multiple people say that. So, what's being done over here? Which is? Then? And then what's being brought down? Because what happens with those 2's? So, what do I need to do next? plus 5, add 5. I heard it in different ways, but I agree. So, what's being typed in here? Negative 6 plus 5 gets you what? Then? Because what happens to those 5s? What's another way I can write this?
X equals -1.
Are they both acceptable answers?
Yes.
Perfect. Any questions there? How do I check this? Oh, true. I need to see yours, baby. That means automatically a 65. When I call time, make sure you bring it. Automatically. Yikes. Looking at this, how do I rewrite this to check it?
-3 equals -1 minus 5 over 2.
What do I need to do first?
Subtract -1 from 5.
Well, -1 and -5, right? So we're subtracting -1 and 5. So what's -1 minus 5? -6. Everything else stays the same. What am I typing in then? Which is? Does -3 equal -3?
Yes.
Does this make sense?
Yes.
How do we feel about two-step equations with fractions? Easy, which means do your practices. Do not turn in things incomplete. When you're turning in notes, all of them need to be turned in. So the first page, second page, third page, whatever is there. Does that make sense? I'm talking to a certain man. No, he knows who I'm looking at directly. Don't turn in half the work. You turn in half the work, you get half the grade. So please complete your practices and turn them in. Good job to those who have been turning their work in consistently. Get packed up.